Yeah, I think I found that as you come into an organization, if you're an entrepreneur or whatever it is, say you're moving into a new company, learning as many of the roles as possible is important because then it helps you create empathy. So, for instance, I would help set up the servers in the classrooms and troubleshoot if the PC went down, or get to learn a little bit about how we were building a website in HTML. Not because I was a technical person, I wasn't, but I was curious enough, which I think is really important, but I wanted to understand from my team members' perspective what they were doing, what that was like, so I could help them out. And so I did that. I learned some IT stuff. I taught classes. I went out and made cold calls. And within the first 5 years, I essentially was in every position at Learn It. And so when our CEO wasn't working out and the board was looking to find somebody else, I threw my hat in the ring and I said, look, I've helped out with IT. I've taught classes. I've closed some of our biggest deals. I think I'd be a good candidate because I know the business, really well. And fortunately for me, that worked out and I was able to move into the leadership role of CEO.
Amazing. That reminds me of this, I think it's Discovery, this show where they have the boss hidden within the organization, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A secret boss or something like
Yeah.
that.
I like that show.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. And you've done the same thing, but otherwise, counterwise, right? Yes, yes. So yeah, I had a similar a journey, but on the technical side. So I started as a software engineer, then I moved to leadership of managing teams, mentoring, leading, and then eventually became CEO of my company. And I started doing product management, which is kind of the other side of the engineering, right? On the engineering, we think about the how to build it, and then on the product, we think about what we should build based on what the people would need, right? So the more I get into these roles, the more appreciation I get into every specific role for the different reasons, right? And I think that's very interesting journey for me. Yeah.
I think it's great to see both sides of the situation, especially, one side you're really creative and then the other side you're producing something. And if you could mesh those two, because we've all seen somebody who created something and it's like their baby, but then they put it out on the market and nobody wants it. And it's because maybe not getting input beforehand, and not being open to what other people may find most important. So I think that that's really interesting.
Right. Yes. So can you tell us a little bit more about, you played Division 1 baseball, right? How you were talking a little bit about this, how that shaped how you live today.
I found that playing sports, whether it's individual sports or team sports, and you don't have to play all the way through college to get a lot of value out of it. But you and I both have young kids, and I think there's so much you can learn from playing sports. I like to call it the athletic education, and I learned discipline, learning how to collaborate with people, perseverance, having that grit. Because in baseball, especially, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're a superstar. So you have to just learn to get up and do things over and over again. I've also found that athletes are great at learning how to receive feedback. For instance, I go up to the bat, I strike out, my hitting coach has a conversation with me. He tells me what I need to do and change. I need to be able to absorb that feedback and I need to implement it 30 minutes later. And that's all carried over into the business world. I've also been fortunate. I have a book called The Learn It All Leader. And I was really fortunate. I played for 3 Hall of Fame baseball coaches and I learned a lot about what it meant to be a great leader. And I'm sure like you did as well, I played for some pretty bad coaches, coaches who would take all the credit, pass all the blame, who were inconsistent. And I used all those experiences saying, okay, these are what the great coaches do. I want to replicate some of that. And here are some of the things that I learned exactly not to do and make sure I avoided that because I remember what it felt like to being on the receiving end of somebody pushing the blame out on me when things didn't go well. So I think sports is a tremendous opportunity to learn from. Of course, you also get that competitive drive. And when it comes to discipline, if we weren't 15 minutes early, we were late. And you just don't see that all the time in today's business climate. So parents out there, put your kid in sports. Let them have fun.